Aristotle described a paradox of tragedy where we take delight in viewing the most accurate possible images of objects which in themselves cause distress when we see them. Now, he was talking about Oedipus's gut-wrenching revelation that caused him to gouge out his eyes, but today we have Lolcows.
I am human garbage! No!
Fucking face grated all over the pavement.
I'm sick and tired of people.
The Lolcow phenomena isn't just a compilation of social media videos. The art object here holistically includes the Lolcow, their media output, the community surrounding them online, and the content that community generates. To begin at the simplest level, the obsessive and granular documentation of anyone produces novel artistic value. It's life unfiltered, captured as never before possible with the use of cutting-edge technology. The documentation even supersedes the voluntary surveillance of the iPhone by interacting with the surveillance state. Never before have we been given such intimate access to another person's life, especially one so fascinating. Even on the most surface level, the Lolcow is the densest possible character study. But the real aesthetic significance comes from the interplay of the Lolcow and their community, the farmers. What is a Chris Chan without a liquid Chris? Simply documenting someone's life isn't all that interesting until the panopticon watching becomes the antagonist. The interactions between the Lolcows and their A-logs, or simply Lolcows and their comments section, creates the conflict of the story. This is then documented and spread via a sort of folk history spanning forum threads, predominantly on Kiwi farms, YouTube videos like the famous 85-episode Chris Chan documentary, as well as memes, clips, and commentary floating around TikTok and Instagram. The community processes the Lolcow's aimless existence into a drama, a narrative with antagonists, episodes, and arcs. The narrative is distributed and emergent, relying on a rotating cast of characters with no director. No one guides the story to any resting point or conclusions. The community narrativizes itself through documentation, metabolizing life itself into a coherent story. But, you say, this can't be art. The Lolcow isn't an artist. Things are just happening to them. They cannot be positively contributing to the work. Au contraire. To anchor it back to the realm of established art, we can use the work of performance artist Marina Abramovic. In her most famous work, Rhythm Zero, she laid out 74 objects that could either cause pain or pleasure. For 6 hours, audience members used these items on her, cutting off her clothes, sticking her with thorns, and even pointing a loaded gun at her. You might say that Abramovic is an artist. She knew the risks and chose to undergo such a harrowing performance. Compare that to the unwitting Lolcow. But no, there's very little difference in fact. In both cases, the artist, if you can bear to call a Lolcow that, manufactured the performance situation. Just like how Abramovic could have stopped their performance at any time, the Lolcow can do the same. At any point, they could log off and never return. Some do, but most simply won't. No matter how much social media tortures them, they choose to continue the performance. Forever. All these themes meet at one point, the character trait that dooms Lolcows to their fate. But first, this video is brought to you by my Patreon. Every month, get an exclusive video like this one, Humiliation Ritual Government, where I go over how the regime produces prisoner-style compliance in the citizenry using humiliation. As part of launching my Patreon, I'm also committing to releasing a video every week. No more messy upload schedule. New Elroddd every 7 days. And another perk for my patrons is, if I miss a deadline, I'll make a Patreon-exclusive punishment video to apologize. This is how I'm going to enforce deadlines on myself for your benefit as well as mine. If you like my work, please consider supporting the channel. Even if you don't want to pay any money, you can subscribe for free for access to community polls and updates. Now back to the video. Fundamentally, the Lolcow cannot understand his predicament. They will never come to the conclusion that they are a punching bag, an object of ridicule. Darkside Phil believes he's a good gamer. Cyrax thinks he's next up for the music industry. Chris Chan, at least at one point, thought he was a misunderstood artist with a soon-to-be-famous OC. Every Lolcow is stuck in a low metacognitive state. They are not self-aware, not even of the reality of their predicament. This is what allows them to be tricked, tortured, and farmed. Compare this to a normal person. Under a Lolcow's degree of scrutiny, of heat, of social pressure, normal people either change their behavior or quit. The Lolcow is fundamentally incapable of either. It's what makes them a Lolcow. Further, this gap between their belief and reality is what the community latches onto and exploits. They constantly expose the Lolcow to their own cognitive dissonance, whether by hook or by crook or by the occasional pure-hearted individual that actually tries to help them. In a story analysis context, these antagonists destroy the hero's natural world for a new one, forcing the protagonist from thesis to antithesis by exposing this metacognitive chasm. In this emergent storyline, the gap is the protagonist's fatal flaw. Overcoming the dissonance is the Lolcow's character arc. If they understand the gap between their perception of themselves and objective reality, the show ends. Truman walks out of Sea Haven into the real world. The Lolcow logs off, permanently. This impossible revelation is the character growth required to break them into their third act, the new knowledge necessary to improve their life and escape from the panopticon they locked themselves inside. Without the revelation, they are doomed to die a Lolcow. The Lolcow structure maps onto the Eastern religious concept of Samsara, which translates to wandering or running around in circles. Samsara is the cycle of life, death, and rebirth until the believer attains moksha, where they can release themselves from all worldly things. In this context, the Lolcows are held in Samsara until they can release their deluded self-image for the painful truth. There's even a concept for this in Buddhism called avidya, which is ignorance of the nature of reality. In this framework, we, the observers of the Lolcow, watch from the enlightened position, acknowledging reality for what it truly is. We watch the subject wrestle against the unseen and unintelligible, flailing uselessly against incomprehensible reality. We watch them live, die, and rebirth through different eras of their ego and character, but never getting any closer to transcendence. But this is too self-aggrandizing, really. I love Turkey Tom videos, but when I watch hours of content on Daniel Larson, I don't feel ascended or enlightened. To engage with the Lolcow is to engage with something very low, something very base, a fascination that has some reflection into the observer's character, my character. And it all comes back to the reason we consume art at all. Aristotle famously says that tragedy affects pity and fear and then purifies those emotions from us. Is that not what we get from going down, Zarathustra style? Instead of the mountain, we dive from sea level down to the depths? We are trapped in this same samsara, endlessly fascinated by these characters because the fear and pity we feel for them purifies the fear and pity we have in our lives. We live in the same loop as them, equally unaware of the next level higher than us. But getting to view them grants us wonderful catharsis, something they will never be able to attain. The Lolcow phenomenon earns aesthetic significance. There is a richness there that is more than meets the eye objectively, and it requires a taste built from tacit knowledge gained over years of being terminally online. The art object to be understood is decentralized and ephemeral, containing transient social media content, forum threads, comment sections, legal documents, and quasi-historical documentation. It's not the Lolcow's life that's art, it's the way it's processed and manipulated and metabolized by their digital antagonist. This is something fundamentally new, not just an emergent narrative, but the medium itself. And what's interesting is this cutting edge is fundamentally illegible to institutions. How can you put a Lolcow in an art gallery? In a cage? In a video compilation? As a highfalutin interview series using a critical theory lens? All these would change the phenomena to a different medium altogether. Any sort of acknowledgement of a Lolcow's artistic value makes you complicit. To fund such a venture is possibly criminal. But the artistic value is indisputable. Never before have we been able to access a continuous, omniscient view of a tragic character, delivered in real time in its deepest granularity. To achieve a perspective like this before the advent of the smartphone, you would have had to be a god.